Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you happen to be getting ready to watch the First Alert 7:15 live streaming weather show on Facebook, this is meteorologist Steve Horstmeyer. I'm doing an audio check for all of our sources. Looks like everything's up and running. Okay, it is 7:13. I don't have the seconds on here, so 7:13, so under 2 minutes, I'll be with you. We've got to get Roku and all those things started too. There we go. All right, everyone. I will start the show right at 7:15 as soon as my computer clock clicks over, and we'll get going. Some interesting stuff to talk about today. And while I'm waiting, my first swig of Diet Mountain Dew. Okay, 1 minute until showtime. I'll be with you in under a minute, everyone. This is meteorologist Steve Horstmeyer. Okay, everyone, it is 7:15. Hi there, I'm Steve Horstmeyer, Chief Meteorologist here at Fox 19 Now. This is our live tower cam shot looking down at downtown Cincinnati from about 4 miles away. A little bit of jiggling on the camera as we get a bit of a breeze. 51 degrees. Now, the normal high at this time of year is right around the 41 degree mark. And tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to check here real quick to see what the actual normal high temperature is for today by going to the National Weather Service's webpage. And what we'll see here, I'm almost there, give me a second. We'll see that the high temperature normally on this date is 41. Okay, so the high will drop to 40. So right now we are 10 degrees warmer than we are normally at high temperatures. So it's very warm. Temperatures will stay close to 50, maybe even as high as 55 in some spots overnight. And the weather's going to be cloudy and dry if you're heading to the Bengals game. I can't rule out a sprinkle popping up, but for the most part, no rain that's of consequence. Probably no reason to bring your rain gear. And warm temperatures for the last home game of the Bengals season. I'm sure everybody at the tailgates is going to be really, really happy about that. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's going to come our way weather-wise, and we've got a big change coming our way. First of all, here is the forecast for Bengals game day. The game does start at 4:30 p.m. versus the Broncos. It's a must-win. Actually, you know, the way I look at it, every game is a must-win when you're in sports. 58 tailgating, 60 at kickoff, 59 at halftime, cloudy skies, a chance for a sprinkle, but that's it. Probably nothing at all. So it looks like a nice day for the fans and for the players. The last thing you want on a have-to-win game when you have a team driven by a passing quarterback is a cold day to make it hard to throw the pass and hard to catch. It should be a great day for passing with not much in the way of wind. And there you see there's not much rain out there right now. We do have some more sprinkles coming our way. Now notice all that stuff you see over near Bloomington on the left-hand side of the screen. That is all pretty much just sprinkle activity. It's moving to the north and east, and we'll see some sprinkles, a little misty drizzle at times, but no more significant rain through the remainder of the evening. And you can see there's more in southern Illinois, more in Missouri, and so we'll see some kind of precipitation, very light, brief stuff, enough to keep things from drying out as we head on into tomorrow morning. Okay, so what we're watching here is, you see this? This doesn't look like much, but notice it is trending south and eastward, and as it gets into the high plains here in the panhandle of Texas, it's growing. what happens here is the disturbances that we have, the big L's you see on weather maps and that, they're all driven by the jet stream, okay? In other words, energy at the jet stream literally causes that low to form at the surface, and that's what drives it. So what's happening here is you've got the jet stream dipping southward like this. You've got a low pressure system forming. However, the roughness of the Rocky Mountains stops that from getting better organized. In other words, it really just kind of discombobulates it. And once the system and the energy makes its way out of the Rockies over the smoother plains, you see these systems developing. And sometimes what will happen, you'll see part of it here, and you'll actually see some development pretty far ahead of it as that energy really gets going. And that's what you're going to see this time. Now watch what happens there around Houston. Okay, so we're going to switch over. We're going to let it go one more time. Next time, when we get to the last frame right there, we're going to go into model data, and you can see that the model has quite a bit of cloud cover over Texas. So if we look at it this way, quite a bit of cloud cover over Texas, that typical V shape of an upper level jet stream disturbance. And you can see a few sprinkly showers beginning to develop over the Gulf of Mexico. So pay attention to the area south of Houston here as we put it back into motion, and right there you see the system developing that is going to come our way. And what's miraculous about this is that when I first started in this business, you'd have no idea that was going to happen. You could barely go out 2 days and be right, and now we've got a pretty good record of accuracy all the way out 14 days. So watch what happens with this rainfall now. We're going to put it back into motion. It zooms north and eastward. The yellow represents some substantial rainfall, and we are talking again about that coming in after midnight. So the way I look at it, if we don't get a sprinkle with the Bengals game, we're going to get nothing. And it looks like rain back in the tri-state in the overnight hours into Sunday morning, and Sunday looks like a very wet day. Okay, so we'll put this back into motion. Right there, then you see some of the yellow, some of the heavier rainfall right over the Fox 19 Now viewing area. By the time we get to Monday morning at 5:50 a.m., it's beginning to move out. So it tells you most of Sunday looks wet. We might have a break later in the day, but most of Sunday looks wet, and then Monday everything dries out. This is the system that comes in for New Year's Eve. Now the latest model runs have pushed this a little bit farther south. The last two model runs had it coming more like this, and so as the low pushed off into Pennsylvania, the wraparound brought us a little bit more wet snow mix. This one's minimizing that, and what you'll see is there's the low pushing off to the north and east, and you can see some snow forms over the Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia, good for the ski areas there, and we just get a little bit of snow shower activity mainly associated with winds off of Lake Michigan. But temperatures for New Year's Eve and all night New Year's night stay warmer than freezing, and with all the warm weather we've had lately, the ground is very warm. So even though we have wet roads, which not ideal for New Year's Eve and for your travels, we don't have any ice and snow in the forecast that would cause a problem. So wet roads will be the rule for New Year's Eve. And we've got a big change on the way into the tri-state. Okay, so this evening, 51 right now, we stay in the 50s throughout the evening hours, and then overnight we're looking at temperatures staying around the 50-degree mark. So pretty much temperatures that you have now is what you get overnight and tomorrow morning. Now there's one thing I forgot to put in the show here, so I'm calling it back up right now, is how much rain are we going to get on Sunday into Monday morning, okay? Well, it's going to come up here, and there you see it. The European model, the European model was only saying maybe an inch in a few spots in the last run. This run may have lost its mind a little bit. Models tend to do that sometimes. It's only saying, as much as an inch and a half or more in a few spots around the tri-state. Now, these totals are a 24-hour amount from Sunday at midnight to Monday at midnight. So that's that 24-hour stretch, goes all of Sunday. And so over 24 hours, that much rainfall is not that much. It's not like you're getting 2 inches out of a thunderstorm during the summer. Okay, so that's the European model. Let's see if the other model is in here now. Let me see. I set it up differently, so I've got to grab things live here on the air that we don't usually do. Here we go. So the other model here, this is the IBM model, the graph, a global rapid something, I forget. something for the AA forecast. But it is also saying many areas will get more than an inch. So I'm thinking an inch of rainfall is probably a good bet. That could mean some ponding on roadways. Of course, spray on the roads as you're driving. But again, an inch of rain over a 24-hour span is really not that much. In this case, it is Sunday until noon when it begins to take. Actually, it is the 24-hour. I forgot to change the badge on that. So that is what we're looking at. We're looking at a very wet Sunday, but drying out on Monday. So once again, this evening, we're going to stay steady in the 50s. Overnight, we're going to stay steady in the 50s. Sunrise is at 7:56. And then for the morning commute, even though we don't have much in the way of rain coming our way, we've got enough mist and high humidity that things aren't going to dry out quite a bit overnight. So roads will still be drying out tomorrow morning. It'll be cloudy and gray. Any showers come to an end, and then temperatures will be near 50 as you head out the door, maybe as high as 55 in some spots as we head to 60 again tomorrow. Okay, this is something we've been talking about for a while now, okay? This is from the Climate Prediction Center, and this is their forecast. It starts on the 2nd, goes to the 6th, so it's that 5-day stretch, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. And you can see they've been holding with colder than normal over the eastern U.S. And what we were talking about is they do 6 to 10 days, 8 to 14 days in the future, every single day of the week, and then every Friday they put out a 3 to 4 week outlook, okay? So weeks 3 to weeks 4, and this goes into the 24th, I think, of January now. And last week they said it's going to be much colder than normal all the way from the Rockies to the Atlantic coast. Well, the 6 to 10 day outlook, which takes us to the 6th of January, says that's the case, and we'll show you some numbers on this coming up. Okay, let's go ahead. So there's the 6 to 10 day outlook through the 6th. Here is the 8 to 14 day, or days 8 to day 14 outlook, which goes to the 10th of January. It says colder than normal. And hey, look at that. Half of our viewing area is in the darker blue, so it's significantly colder than normal. And when you hear the drum roll, the new week 3 to week 4 outlook continues with that colder than normal pattern, and we are in the coldest part of that colder than normal pattern around the tri-state. And again, what that's caused by is the jet stream dipping southward, bringing cold air masses from Canada. And as I've tried to explain for a couple times, is that when you get a lot of those cold, dry air masses out of Canada, you don't get a lot of precipitation. You might get some snow with the front, a little bit, but not much. So what we expect here, when you have colder than normal weather in the winter, and you get those cold air masses out of Canada, you expect lower than normal precipitation. However, as that pattern begins to set up, in other words, as the jet stream goes from like this to like this, you begin to get a lot of changes, and you can get quite a bit of storminess, and we do have that. You'll see when we go to the 14-day temperature outlook that we have several days with snow, several days with snow flurries. But overall, we are looking, as this sets up, as this colder than normal pattern establishes itself, the possibility of getting several snow events. Okay, I say snow events because it's way too early to tell what kind of a snow event, way too early to put an accumulation figure on it, way too early to give you anything specific other than a heads up that, hey, we are watching for that to happen. And we'll look at that in a minute. So back to full screen, let's see what they say precipitation-wise. Okay, so that is a little bit near to slightly below normal in the tri-state through the 6th, through the 10th, near normal precipitation, and then through the 24th, near normal precipitation. Okay, so what they're expecting is those cold air masses not to have as big of an effect as they were talking about last week. And so here's what we're talking about. We're talking about colder weather coming into the tri-state. Okay, that's colder than normal weather lasting probably into the 24th of January or so. Now, and with that comes less precipitation than normal because we're dominated by cold, dry air masses out of Canada. One of the things I want to, again, caution you is when we're talking about an outlook for the average precipitation from January 11th to January 24th, okay, that's 14 days if you count the endpoints. For a 2-week period, it could be really wetter than normal for a while and then really drier than normal and still average out about normal. Okay, so when we're talking about averages over a stretch of time like this, you've got to consider what's happening in there. And sometimes it is just every day is colder than normal. Sometimes every day is warmer than normal. And sometimes you go from warmer than normal to colder than normal, and that average still comes out to near normal. So that doesn't really tell you everything you need to know. The science of meteorology is not quite yet advanced enough so that 3 to 4 weeks out ahead of time I can say, hey, look at this, we're going to have a big snowstorm this day. That just isn't possible. But what we can say is that, hey, watch out for this stretch of time. Here's the window of time when you may see a snowstorm develop, and that's kind of what we're doing here. Okay, back to full screen. Let's see the 7-day forecast now. Your 7-day forecast looks like this. A low of 50, a high of 61 on Saturday. Again, that's Bengals Sunday. Sorry, it's Bengals Saturday. I'm so used to saying Sunday. It's Bengals Saturday. That would put us 10 degrees warmer than normal. 51 and 58 for Sunday. I think the showers come back in Sunday, probably after midnight, and last all the way into the early morning hours of Monday before it begins to dry out. And then for variably cloudy, that would be Monday afternoon with a high of 52. So we're still 10 to 12 degrees warmer than normal by the time we get to Monday. We're still warmer than normal when we get to New Year's Eve, which is Tuesday. We're talking about rain and breezy conditions around the tri-state for New Year's Eve. And again, showers. Remember, we were looking at that. We said that the low that's coming in for New Year's Eve is a little bit further south on the latest runs. If that happens, it'll only be scattered light showers around the tri-state. But we still can anticipate wet roads for New Year's Eve. Overnight, as the temperatures fall, we might see a little bit of snow mix in with that as it comes to an end. But we're not talking about icy driving. We have a low of 32 for New Year's morning in the forecast. That is freezing for water, but the ground is very warm after all this warm weather. And look at that. We've got temperatures way above normal all the way up to Monday. Okay, so then New Year's Day, a low of 32, a high of only 38. The day after New Year's Day, the 2nd, flurries are possible, low of 25, high of 31. Friday, a low of 22, a high of 31. So we've got 3 out of 4 days in the 7-day forecast with high temperatures only in the 30s, okay? Not that far from normal, actually, but much colder than it is right now. All right, so we go to beyond the 7-day forecast. So to that 3-day stretch of highs in the 30s, we add 7 more days with highs in the 20s or 30s. So the 5th, 6th, and 7th, okay? Remember I talked about a window? So I'm not saying it's going to snow each of these days. I'm saying this is the window that we have for a snowstorm that looks like it may develop, okay? I mean, that forecast could completely bust. It could be right. But we are keeping a close eye on the 5th, 6th, and 7th for the possibility of a snowstorm. And then as cold air settles in behind the storm, look at these highs, look at these lows. We've got snow flurry activity in the cold air. Some of that could be off the lakes for us. If the winds are right, some of that could just be the cold air and instability there. But definitely looks like a significantly colder than normal stretch of time. And remember, the Climate Prediction Center says that stretch is going to continue till about the 24th, it looks like. Although I think we'll see a little bit of a warming trend before we get to the 24th. Now remember, the other thing we were talking about, we talked about for months, everybody is going hog wild on the La Nina. Warm water along the equator last winter gave us an El Nino, okay, and that modifies the entire global circulation. Cold water was expected to develop along the equator this year. That's a La Nina, the opposite. That also modifies the entire global atmosphere, but in a different way. Typically for us, we would be near or a little bit below normal, kind of flirting with normal temperature-wise, and we would have more than normal precipitation, mostly rain or some wet snow. However, even though the cold water developed not as much as they thought, it just isn't quite developing. They're still thinking that it's going to develop as we head into late January and February, but the net result of the La Nina not doing what the climate model said in this case, okay, and they said it's going to have an early onset, it's going to be very strong, and it's going to last a long time. Well, it didn't have an early onset, it's not strong, and it's not going to last a long time the way it looks now. So the net result of the lack of the La Nina pattern means the door is open for Canadian air to come in and give us some cold weather. Okay, so what looks like nobody has any idea what they're doing, one of the things I was always stressing when I did my winter forecast, and as I've done this for the past few months, is that if the La Nina pattern, now my winter forecast was based on a weak La Nina, but I said all the time, if the La Nina fails to happen, we're going to have to open the doors. And it looked originally like it would be the middle part of January through the end of February. It's setting up a little bit earlier, so without the La Nina really beginning to take control of the atmospheric circulation, here we go into a colder than normal January. And remember, even in the El Nino pattern last year, we had a week that was pretty cold out there. So that's what happens there. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look now at the 14-day temperature graph. There you see it. On the 7-day plus, high temperatures dip below normal on the first, low temperatures dip below normal on the second, and except for one day on the lows, we stay there. Okay, so that takes us through the 10th, and of course the Climate Prediction Center's forecast goes out to the 24th, and it looks to me like we're going to pretty much stay there. Now, if you get a big storm, if you get a big storm forming, we might have a day or two where that warm southerly air ahead of the storm makes it into the tri-state and warms us up, but then the cold air comes in behind it. But overall, I definitely think we are in for basically a pretty chilly January, the way it's looking. Okay, let me go over, take a look at Facebook, see if we've got anybody that's got questions or comments. Okay, we do have some people here on Facebook. All right. Garnet Rothwell, good evening, Steve. Patiently waiting to see what tidbit about the weather you can teach us this evening. I think I already did, Garnet, but if that didn't satisfy you, let me know. Again, it has to do several things. One of my favorite is the fact that as the storms come our way and they have to cross the Rocky Mountains, that they get discombobulated. They're still there. The upper part of them is there, but the surface is just kind of indecipherable. But once they move out of those mountains and they get over the smoother plains, things redevelop. Okay. Sarah DeWitt, hi to you. I hope everything's going well. And she said she likes to learn from us and from Ethan. I think Ethan's great. He knows a lot about weather. He's one of those guys that's passionate about weather, loves doing the weather, and knows a lot about it. So Ethan, you can definitely trust. All right, let's see now. This Facebook thing keeps jumping. Susan Wally, hope you're having a wonderful Friday. Thanks for all the information. You're welcome, Susan. I'm having a great Friday. Tomorrow's an off day. Usually what I do when I go home at night, now years and years ago, it was very common for TV people to go out for dinner and they'd have a few glasses of wine or a couple drinks and all that. And over the years, I've seen way too many people burn careers because they had too much and imbibed basically while they're on the clock. So what I have in my personal life, this is my thing, for me only, I'm not saying everybody else should do it, is I have a strict rule: no alcohol the day that I'm going to be on the air until my shift going on the air is over. So that would mean nothing from this morning when I got up all the way up to now, all the way until I get off work and get home. I don't drink and drive. And I usually have a glass of wine before I go to bed at night. It just kind of helps settle the nerves. And so, how did I get on that? So my personal way of going home and relaxing is sitting down, having a glass of wine, watching something on Netflix for a little while, and I usually fall asleep before I finish the wine and before the program's over. Okay, so Tina Wolf says, no rain, please. Sunday, I'm afraid Tina's going to be wet. Tomorrow, though, looks really, really good. Okay, let's see if... okay, Jeff Beechlor. Hello, Steve. Hey, Jeff, how are you? He's waiting on the snow. Okay, so get ready, Jeff. Keep your eyes open on the 6th, 7th, and 8th. That's that window when we could see a storm coming through here. And then after that, the days after that, as the cold air comes in, we could seeing some snow flurry activity or some light snow shower activity off of the lakes. Okay, those are all the comments for right now. So if you happen to be watching and you haven't commented or you don't want to comment and you joined us late, I will go over the forecast once again and then we'll call it a night. Okay, so start with tonight's forecast. And I'll send it to you full screen as soon as it pops up behind me, like now. All right, so overnight we're looking at temperatures staying in the 50s. Now some rural areas may dip into the upper 40s, but I think 50s for the most part. Sunrise at 7:56. For the morning, if you have to go anywhere Saturday morning, roads will be drying out. They won't be completely dry. Cloudy and gray, any showers left in the area coming to an end. Temperatures near 50, and then later in the day, I can't rule out a sprinkle, but really not. I would not be carrying rain gear for tomorrow's game if you're going there. Okay, and here's today's forecast from the Climate Prediction Center. Okay, that's the CPC, as we call it. From the 2nd through the 6th of January, they expect the Cincinnati tri-state area to be significantly colder than normal. They expect that identical pattern, almost identical pattern, to continue through the 10th of January. And then every Friday, they release their new week 3 to week 4 outlook, and that takes us to the 24th of January now. And it's basically the same pattern, okay? Colder than normal weather, and us on the near the core, the coldest part of that. And we'll put some numbers on the first 2 weeks of this forecast here in a second or two. Okay, a little bit drier than normal through the 6th of January. Through the 10th of January, we're talking about near normal precipitation. And then for weeks 3 and 4, we're looking at near normal precipitation around the tri-state. Okay, now, and again, 7-day forecast looks like this. Low of 50 tonight, 61 tomorrow, slight chance of a shower in the forecast. That's mainly in the morning. I can't rule out a sprinkle later on, but if you're going to the Bengals game, don't worry about it. Rain and breezy on Sunday. Some of that rain could be briefly heavy. Again, we might see more than an inch in a few spots, but it's not an inch that occurs in like an hour in a thunderstorm. It's probably, if it's an inch, it could be over 24 hours. Monday, variably cloudy and 52, 47 with breezy conditions on Tuesday. So for New Year's Eve, if you're going out to a New Year's Eve party, we're talking about wet roads only, not cold enough for any kind of ice to form. We do drop to 32 by Wednesday morning, but with all the warm weather we've had, the roads will be so warm that it won't be an issue. So even New Year's morning early on, we're talking about maybe a few flakes of snow in here. And temperatures warm enough so we don't have any icy issues. New Year's Day, look at that. The high drops to 38. Then we have highs of 31 and 31 for Thursday and Friday. Chance of flurries on Thursday and then partly cloudy on Friday. Okay, beyond the 7-day looks like this. Okay, in the 7-day forecast, we have 3 days in a row, the last 3 days, with temperatures in the 30s for highs. We're going to add to that 7 more days, so in the 20s or 30s, so cold days. So we've got at least 10 days in a row in our forecast that we're going to see cold temperatures. I think it's dry on Saturday the 29th. On the 5th, 6th, and 7th, that's that window for the possibility of a snowstorm coming in. And then 8th, 9th, and 10th, as the cold air settles in behind the storm, it could be a few days of some flurry activity from time to time. And look at some of those lows. I mean, my gosh, a high of 23, lows of 16 and 14. I mean, that's cold air. It's colder than normal. It's not bitterly cold. It's not as cold as it can get. It's not going to set any records, but it's definitely colder than what we're used to now, and that's a big deal there. Okay, 7-day plus looks like this. High temperatures take a nosedive, so do the low temperatures. Take a look at normal. The normal high drops to 39. Well, we could be as cold as 16 degrees colder than normal on the high side come the 10th of January, and as low as 10 below normal on the low side. So definitely some cold air moving on into the tri-state. And your takeaway on this is this. New Year's Eve, New Year's morning, there could be a little bit of wet snow mixed in with some rain, although it looks like it's going to dry out pretty quickly now. We will see wet roads for New Year's Eve's holiday, turning colder, especially starting on the 2nd. Actually, the 1st we have a high in the 38th, but the cold air begins to settle in the 1st and 2nd. A snow event could the 5th, 6th, or 7th. We're keeping an eye on that. And then very cold weather with flurries the 8th, 9th, and 10th around the tri-state. So it was bound to happen. If the La Nina pattern didn't take over and exert some kind of control, we were bound to go into a more normal winter pattern. And remember, the coldest part of the year has a high, let's see, I think 39 is the coldest normal high we have, and that's the dead of winter. So the last, it's like 4 days in the middle of January. It's what we would typically call the dead of winter, or the average coldest part of the year anyway, and that's coming up. Okay, one more quick view of Facebook. Okay, let's see. Jeff Beechler said before, waiting for all this snow. Tina Wolf says no snow. Jeff and Tina, you ought to have a discussion about that. Letta Becker says, hi, Letta, thanks for watching. Jeff Beechler, he said he's happy he got his Christmas gift. And Garnet Rothwell said, thanks for the lesson. And I like to do that. I think people like to know sometimes why. I don't like to get into the real, the mathematical and technical discussions of it. That's just, but I think it's interesting to see how different things happen. Okay, that's it. Thank you for joining me. This is Friday night, so tomorrow morning at 10:15 a.m., meteorologist Ashley Smith has her 10:15 streaming weather show. Tomorrow and Sunday at 6 p.m., meteorologist Ethan Emery has his 6 p.m. streaming weather show. And then I'll be back on Monday at 7:15. So have yourself a great weekend. Enjoy it. Hope everything goes well for you, and I'll talk to you before the year ends.